We're starting, Dan. You want to put your camera on? And we will be waiting for folks to start joining us. We have a couple coming in already. Let's see, change this view up here for a second. Okay, I'm Janda. I'm the coordinator at the EnviroHouse, and we are actually recording live from the EnviroHouse. This is a new experiment for us. So bear with us as we go through this. This is the first time we've tried this. We are going to be doing a webinar this morning with Dan Borba, who is on the screen with his rain barrels there. And we will be getting started in just a second. I think most people have probably done their fill of Zoom by now, but if you haven't, there is a menu bar at the bottom of your screen that shows where you can click on chat or raise your hand. We are not taking live questions right now, but we might be able to do that at the end. If you have comments, please put them in the chat, because that way everybody can see the comment and the answers. And you can copy that when we're through. You can copy everything that's in the chat. I will be putting links in there. And if for some reason you can't copy it, my email address will be in there, and you can get in touch with me and I can email the information that's going into the chat. So with that, I want to thank Dan Coram for being with us on our city staff and running the video and helping to make this happen. And we will just jump right in and introduce Dan Borba. He can tell you a little bit about his background. He's the rain barrel guru for Tacoma, Pierce County, King County, all around us. Does a lot of workshops and webinars, and well, I don't know about webinars, but he's done a lot of workshops and has been making rain barrels for a long time. So Dan, do you want to take over? I'm going to put myself in a small screen here, and if there are questions and you put them in the chat, then I can pop up and repeat that question so that the guys can hear it. I'm kind of in the office at the EnviroHouse with the door closed, so we can't see each other except what's on film here. So thanks again for being here. And Dan, you can take over now. We have two Dans, so I'm going to have to be careful who I'm calling on.
Yeah. Thank you, Jenna. And it's nice to be here. It's Saturday morning, and happy to share with you just some things that I've learned, and we're going to put a rain barrel together and connect a couple barrels too, just to give you an idea how to do that, and just a brief kind of thing on how to put them in. I've got a couple other videos through the EnviroHouse, and one is about how to install a rain barrel, and the other one is also about how to make it. So that might help fill in if you're still interested in doing that. So like Janda said, my name's Dan Borba. I've been making, selling, and installing rain barrels since 1999. What first got me started in this whole lifelong quest, or whatever you want to call it, was I noticed across the alley from me there, the community garden had some 5-gallon buckets turned upside down, and I thought, oh, we should just turn those right side up and see if we can catch any water. And one thing led to another. I tried to, I was looking at the prices at some of the East Coast catalog companies, and they were way out of my price range at that time. Actually more than what I sell them for, 20 some years later even. So I decided to make my own. And I stuck a very crude prototype underneath a very dysfunctional gutter where I worked, huge warehouse. And I went away for a couple hours, and I could not believe the amount of water that I was able to collect in a really short period of time. And what I came to find out is on a 1,200 square foot roof, kind of just the footprint of a fairly modest size house, in an average Tacoma rain year, you're looking at 27,000 gallons of water are hitting that roof on average. So it's a huge amount of water. And if you've got like 4 downspouts, you're looking at if my math is right, you're looking at about 7,000 gallons a year just running through your downspout. So it can really change your view of what's going on around your house. So anyway, what I'd like to do is just go ahead and assemble a barrel. You can, if you're a DIY kind of person, this is not a bad project at all. It's fairly simple, and with this kind of video assistance shouldn't be too bad at all. But you can certainly buy a barrel from me fully assembled, and that's how most of the barrels are sold. But this is a barrel that I've done a little bit of pre-assembly on. It's a 60-gallon barrel. All the barrels that I sell have some sort of food product in it. I think this one had Kalamata olives. It's got kind of a Greek logo on it. The one tool that you really need with this, and I'll just give you that, is a drill and a 1.5-inch hole saw to put my kits together. You can pick one of these up for $6 or $7 at Lowe's, or you could certainly borrow one for your friend or your neighbor, because you may not ever use it again. So it might be a good idea if you can borrow it. Maybe the Tacoma Tool Library has one, something like that.
That's what I was just going to mention, was the tool library. I'll put that information in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah. You don't have to buy everything you use. So, and it's not much, but and the one thing I do is I drill a couple holes in the body of the barrel, and one is right at the bottom. And you can even, it's kind of a curved, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it's kind of a curved area at the bottom there. And the one nice thing about the parts I use is that it doesn't matter. You can still drill into that and get a nice secure leak-proof fit for it. So the one hole I drill is right towards the bottom, and I drill it at the bottom just to maximize the amount of water you can get from the barrel, because the barrels will last a long time. At the EnviroHouse today, I was walking around, and there's a barrel out there that I must have made 20 years ago, and it's showing some signs of wear and tear, but it's still completely functioning. So if you can drill it as low as possible, you can really maximize the amount of water over that kind of period of time if you need to. So and then the second hole in the body of the barrel is for the overflow, and I'll show you how that works too when we put it together. And then the other one is on the top. I've done a little pre-assembly and cut out the screen here, and done that. But these are just 1.5-inch holes here, and you don't need anything fancier than that. It's just to let the water through, and then the screen is right on top of that. So, and the one thing I would advise too when you're drilling is to flip the drill in reverse, because sometimes it can torque a little bit and you might hurt your wrist. So it's good to put it in reverse. It takes a little bit longer, but I think it's worth it. So let's go ahead and put this one together. From this side. And this is the screen is in there too, but these are the other parts to it. And we've got some parts for the overflow here, these guys, and then this is for the spigot at the bottom. And so the piece I start with first is this is for the inside of the barrel, and I just unscrew it like so. And then with the open end of the PVC facing the top of the barrel, I stick it in through the hole, and then follow the arrow on the nut, which they're reverse threads, so it goes left to tighten it. So, and I'm just going to do that by hand. You can also you know, to really secure it, just get some channel locks, and that's a nice way to really tighten it up. But I'm just going to do it by hand today. So that's the first part of that. And the second is the overflow pipe, and I don't use any glue with this at all. I'll just go ahead and stick that in, and you can kind of see how that sort of faces. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. So there's the overflow. So the pipe goes all the way to the top, and so when the water gets to the top of the barrel, it just will automatically flow down. And this is the last piece for the overflow. And I just screw that. I can screw that in. This one you can just do by hand too. And then the brass piece should face the bottom of the barrel, and that's your overflow. So when the water gets up here, you get a full barrel of water, and then it automatically flows down and out. And then with the standard size hose, you can really direct it where you want it to go, into another container, back into the drain, into your yard. It's really flexible. So that's the overflow. And then,
Dan, can you tip the barrel a little closer to the camera and tip it, because it's kind of hard to see the inside?
Oh, sure.
Show
Yes.
what you were just demonstrating.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
With that pipe.
That's better. Yeah.
There's a good picture on my website too, that you can check that out. It's naturalrainwater.com. And I'm pretty sure I've got a picture of the overflow there too that you can see.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So it's really a good overflow. Initially it was putting it right towards the top, and that's a really easy sort of a progression of sort of a learning curve for me. But this is really nice because it really moves the water, gives it gives it a drop, and then you really can direct it with just the standard size hose. So it's really user friendly, because there's, like I was saying before, there may be 7,000 gallons a year running through that. And so using that water, good on you if you can use 7,000 a year, for sure. But if you can't, it's nice to have a good overflow. And then you can, environmentally, it's better to have it in your yard and not down the drain. So that's the overflow. And then I'm going to have to reveal my maybe one and only trade secret here. This is how you get this fitting into the bottom hole right at the bottom. So you don't need a small person or
On that question, Dan, in the Q&A, which I'm going to copy into the chat, there's a question: do you use any rubber seals when you're doing any of that?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. No, I don't use any glue at all, really. If that's I've got the bulkhead fittings have really thick rubber washers for the inside of the barrel, but other than that, I don't use any glue at all. They really, as far as I can tell, don't need it. So that's a nice thing you don't have to worry about when you're putting. You can certainly make your own. I mean, you can, if you just want a spigot at the bottom, and that's all you got, and you don't have any bulkhead fittings, drill the hole a little bit smaller than, like, if you've got a 1-inch hole for a 3/4 inch spigot, drill it a little bit, either like 15/16 of an inch or even 1 inch, but then just caulk around it and stuff, and those work. I mean, the nice thing about this is hopefully you don't have to worry about it as much, but these are kind of leak proof. But even if it's leaking a little bit, like I was saying, it's you lose a little bit, but overall it's not there's a huge amount of water. So yeah, that was a good question. Let's see, and then this is the this is the secret here. This is just a steak. You can use a tomato steak or a stick or kind of anything you want, but you run it through the hole at the bottom, and hang on, you're hanging onto the bulkhead here, and you've got the nut in your other hand, and then just let it go. Just drop it, and it'll poke its head through the pull out the stick, and then just follow the tight narrow on that. And again, just tighten it up, and you can use a channel lock if you want to really give it a little bit of a secure thing there. And let's see the spigot. And these are nice with my kids. It's a ball valve spigot, so like that's wide open. And a lot of the spigots have a restricted flow, but this one is quarter turns wide open, and it helps with that. Rain barrels are really low pressure, so this can really help with that. So and the last step here is just kind of line up the threads here and take your time. You don't want to strip them, but and it takes a little bit of finesse to get it. But you kind of feel it when you've got it, and then just turn. And this one I just do by hand too. And then the red handle will face the top of the barrel. And if you miss a little bit with screwing it in, you can take it out, give it another shot. I've done that on lots of occasions, and it'll stay. So that's it right there. Yeah. And then the other kind of the last thing with the screen. Normally, what I do, how I cut out the screen was I set the mesh. It's an aluminum mesh, and I set this right on top, and then with a permanent marker, draw a line around it, cut around the outside line, and then you've got your screen. And the nice thing about this, it'll keep out the mosquitoes, and also most of the roof debris will also stay out of there. So that's your rain barrel. Yeah, so you're at that point you're ready to go.
How do you make the lid? Is that at the top of the barrel that comes with it?
Yeah, it's a 2-piece lid, and what I do is I'll go ahead and drill. Like I was saying, I'll drill the holes in the barrel. And this is one I used a 1.5-inch hole saw because that's what you may have is just that size. And then I'll stick this on top of the a piece of aluminum mesh, draw a line and cut it out, and then you've got the screen for that. So yeah, so that's that's also easy to clean. You just take it, rinse it out with rainwater, and then put it back in. So yeah, and another nice thing you can do, I've got a rag and some olive oil, and this one's been shined up already, but I had a friend who said I should sell this as rain barrel polish for $10 in a nice bottle, because it really but it's just plain old olive oil, and you can really, I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but essentially that's how it looks. It really shines it up there. So yeah, so that's that. This is a fully assembled one here, and it's here I'm using 3 sets of blocks, and the one thing I do is try to get it nice and level, because these are very heavy when they're full, and I'll run 2 blocks one way, 2 the other, and 2 again the other way. It'll just help support it, and that's about as high as I go. I'm a little uncomfortable having it one set higher. You can do that, and if it doesn't matter if it falls, then that's maybe a possibility. But I like to keep it at sort of this 24 inches, 2 blocks lower, and it's nice watering can height. So generally that's what I'll do. I'll do 2 and 2. So 4 blocks, just the standard gray blocks. You may have them at your house. Lowe's has them cheaply on a regular basis. So that's a nice place to get them too. But you may just find them around your house. And the nice thing is they can hold the weight. Another possibility is like a stump. They don't last as long, like a tree stump, but aesthetically, you know, you might find these a little challenging. So yeah. So
So
yeah.
Can you cover, because you usually do this earlier, I think, but show how you inside, and then maybe you can show it when if we do a run outside, how you connect, how the barrel gets connected to the downspout, and then also about strapping it, earthquake strapping.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so once I get this nice and set and level, and you know, I have on occasion used a shim or two just to get it set and level. Once you get that set, just above the top of the barrel, probably 6 to 9 inches, I use what I call my gutter liberation tool, and it's also known as a hacksaw. And basically, just 6 to 9 inches above the top of that, I'll cut into that with this. And the one thing you want to be careful of is, especially if you have a larger 2-story house, is that you don't want sometimes you know, doing this kind of thing will loosen the downspout, and you don't want to have to get an extension ladder and have to reattach that thing. So that's one thing to be careful of. You know, if you have a smaller house, it's not a big issue. But anyway, you go ahead and cut it. And gloves are not a bad idea. I've had my share of cuts, but you know, it's up to you. And cut into it, and then I use a flexible elbow, and these are handy because they'll fit almost all of the residential downspouts. Some of you guys will have round, smaller ones that are a little bit older, but these are great because even with that, it's not a perfect fit, but it's a pretty good one. And you know, you slide it up on the downspout. It doesn't have to be directly over the barrel. It can be one side or the other or around the corner. But probably ideally it would be nice to have it right, just right next to the, you know, right near the downspout there. And then these slide on, and they'll extend to about 18 inches. And so what I do is I'll slide that on and then direct it over the top of the barrel. And then at that point, you're really, you know, you're harvesting. And it's really amazing how quickly they fill up. Let's see. And so once you've got that set, the overflow water will automatically come out of here. This is closed. I mean, unless you want it open, but it's closed. And then this will fit just the standard size hose. And one thing you can do that is handy for an overflow hose. And again, it's better if you can route it back into your yard, but you may have to, just because of the water issue, you might have to route it into, you know, direct it back into the drain. Regular, just a piece of hose. And you can get these at some of the salvage places too, if you don't want to cut into your existing hose. But you know, basically what I do is I'll get a piece of it. I'll cut a piece of it and head into a hardware store and find a coupling that fits it. This one's a male coupling, so we need a female for this one. But just so you get the idea, you know, this is the right size for that hose. And then what I do is I'll buy a clamp like this, just a buck or so, and then that'll go around here, and then I can just screw that in. And so if this is a female, I can just screw that, put that in here, screw that in there, and then you've got the size hose you need to direct that. And that's pretty much if you want to do one barrel. Another kind of nice thing is the splitter. And this is kind of a fancy one. It's a little flow is a little bit better, kind of like the Spigot. I got this at McClendon's, probably $10. And you know, another possibility, it can be as simple as this, and these are nice. Just the flow is good with this. There just aren't any stop valves on them. So these nicely screw in to the spigot here, and you can really direct. That way you can fill up your watering can, and at the same time, maybe you've got a dedicated hose to your raised bed or somewhere down in your yard. And so that's a nice possibility too. And so, yeah, and then Janda was asking about the earthquake strap and that kind of thing. Yeah, what I use is just a simple, just kind of a metal, it's a metal strap, and it's about as simple as you get, and then I'll screw it into the side of the house that way. You can go, I had a customer who wanted a pretty elaborate one that may work too. But the nice thing is, you know, short of an earthquake, if they're full of water and they're nice and level, they'll stay put, which is kind of reassuring, you know. So if you put it in, it rains, you're looking at it, it's looking fine, you're probably good to go with it. So yeah, and the big threat when they're empty is wind. So you know, so you have to kind of you know, keep an eye before it rains. But once it's got a little bit of water in it, and you know, you can, it's pretty steady, and you could always throw a rock in the bottom of it too, keep it that way. Yeah, so this is, let's say this is, I'm going to show how to connect up a couple barrels. We've got this one here, and one possibility is to run the overflow. And again, you can use a hose that's, you know, a little bit larger, and like we were talking about, get the coupling and from the hardware store, and then run the hose from here over the top of the second. And this one would have, you know, a couple blocks there too on it. And you can drop this over the top of the second. And that's probably the easiest way to connect a couple barrels. And there's another way too I want to show you. And that's when the barrels are both at the same height. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Real quickly here.
While Dan is doing that, I did put in the chat a note that a 55-gallon barrel, which I think might be the size that Dan is using there with the terracotta ones. If it's full, it's at least 400 pounds. So
right.
You don't want it falling off those blocks or tipping over, which is why we encourage using the earthquake strap. If you're not familiar with it, we get anywhere between typically 38 to 56 or a little bit more, maybe, inches of rain every year in our county. So that can really generate a lot of water. You can fill one of those barrels. People have talked about how long does it take to get it. You can fill one of those barrels in a good rainstorm almost in a day, I think.
Oh, yeah. My most common thing at the farmer's market, I would say, they fill up really quickly. And I think people just thought that was part of my spiel. But then they come back and they say, I can't believe I'm messing up. It was really literally like a third of an inch of rain, or, you know, it's amazing. I don't think most people have a concept of how quickly they fill up. or how much water is actually coming down. So, yeah, so these two, essentially we've got them at the same height. And one nice way, like let's say this one is underneath the downspout and harvesting. As this one, and we've got let's say a splitter on this one, and you fix the dials appropriately, like you want that one closed off, and or connected to a hose. But this is open. This would be open. The spigots are both open, and this is kind of a nice reuse. These are just for washing machines, and it's got both female ends, and it's great. They're super cheap. St. Vincent de Paul, Tacoma's second use. Seattle, I think, has one. Lots of places you can find these. Habitat for Humanity's kind of everywhere. These are just nice. The one thing you might want to do is to kind of, I do a rust-proof spray on the outside of these because they're not designed for outside use, so they'll tend to rust a little bit. But the advantage is they're already set up, and the hose is a little bit thin, so the flow might not be quite as good as some like one you make yourself, and that's not a bad job either. But these are already set up, and so basically you just screw one on here, and then put that second one here. Let's see. Yeah, just to get the idea. So this one will start to fill up under the downspout, and then at a certain point, the weight of the water will kick over into the second, and they'll both actually fill up together if they're at the same height. And the nice part about this method is that you can access all of the water out of the open end of the splitter. And so you, instead of having, these are 60 gallons or 57 technically, but instead of having just one barrel, you've got two, and you can access it all out of the open end of the splitter. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. Let's see. I think that's kind of it. You can paint them. Some people just use like a Rust-Oleum primer, and then any kind of acrylic paint and then a sealant over that. You can get really fancy, or you can just have it, match the color of the house. You can also landscape around it, which is kind of handy. Yeah, and then as far as like maintenance goes, the screen will catch the roof debris, and so almost all of it. But what it doesn't catch will sort of settle at the bottom. And I think if you're using it on food particularly, you might just want to clean it out every year. The composite roofs, which almost everybody has, it's not ideal for rainwater harvesting, but personally, I haven't heard any, anything from people about about any problem with that. I think if you've got what I've read is if you have a new roof, a new composite, just let it go for about 6 months before you start harvesting from that roof. And then moss killers you probably want to try to avoid when you're using them. And then, if I'm comfortable with using mine on my food, on my vegetables. But if you're not, you can definitely target other things. Seedlings do exceptionally well with rainwater. The germination rate goes way up compared to tap water. So that's a perfectly good use. Transplants are nice. When the plants are stressed, it's nice to give them water without chlorine. And like fluoride, and I think the city uses another chemical. I'm not sure, but all that is not really necessary. So it's kind of a nice, and the water definitely feels softer. So yeah, and another thing you can do too is they don't have to be side by side. They can be I've had people do it on corners of houses even, if you want them, that far apart, or if you want to not block a window, maybe, and you've got two, maybe 8 feet apart. You just need to make your own connecting hose. And like I was saying, take that piece into the hardware store and get a couple female couplers that fit it, and then cut your hose, accordingly. You can use your gutter liberation tool to cut it that way too. So, yeah.
So we have a couple questions, and also the EnviroHouse will be open to the public, but the grounds are open most times. But we are opening again in about 2 weeks, I think, 2 to 3 weeks. But we have 5 barrels around the end of the house, 1 on each corner and 3 in between. So it collects the roof runoff on the south end and then goes through 3 other barrels to connect with the 5th barrel around the corner on the north end. And then that one overflows into a French drain and goes down into our little rain garden. So you can come by and take a look at those.
Yeah.
One of the questions, which I think you may have sort of answered, is what do you recommend for screens on the gutter so leaves don't come into the top of the barrel?
I don't have a recommendation for that. It seems to work pretty well without any kind of screen. Like the screen on the barrel will catch a lot of it. But I know some people really have trouble with like what's going on with their, with their system. I don't have a recommendation for that.
Okay, and then the other question is, which I think kind of is what you've done there with your overflow, but why don't you use the runoff spout from one barrel to hook into another barrel?
Oh yeah, no, that'll work. Like you can kind of see these are really close right now, but if they were a little bit, give them a little bit of space to breathe, you can actually, this is pretty cool. I mean, you could take this washing machine hose and screw them into the overflows. And as one fills up, it'll flow down the overflow pipe, and it'll actually come up the second. I know nothing about physics, but it works. So you could do that. I mean, you certainly do that. Yeah. And then the other way is sort of that way. It's like you run you have one a little higher than the other, and you run the overflow over the top of the second. And that's the simplest way. Well, and this is nice too, actually, to run it that way. I've heard of people like running a hose from the overflow to the spigot at the bottom, and I don't know. I don't know if that works. You try it, but I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so the other comment I wanted to make is that we often get questions about the legality of collecting rainwater for people that have been around the area for a long time.
Yeah.
I
do too. I get a lot of it. Everybody, every second, like every third customer coming by will say, I heard it's illegal to harvest rain. Well, technically, I mean, I've been doing this since 1999, and I've never felt that jail was looming for me, or that I was going to be in trouble or anything like that. And that was 1999. And then 2009, the Washington State Legislature had an interpretive ruling that basically gave the green light to residential, people harvesting rain in their yards. The one, I think there's a couple caveats. One, it can't be designed specifically for rain harvesting, like a huge football field size roof, and then you're harvesting the rain. But it's if that structure is for something else, then it's technically it's legal. So, and I mean, here we are. We're at the EnviroHouse. It's the City of Tacoma building, and I don't think they would have let me put in these barrels if it was illegal. So it's reassuring that way. But it's amazing to me how just that rumor, is spreading. It has spread, and people like, I can't believe it's, and now I think it's almost every state in the United States, and Colorado, I think, was probably the most restrictive. You know, stories I heard about Colorado were like, you get a ticket for having a bird bath, you know, for something like that. I think that's a little bit, I don't believe that quite, but you know, I also had somebody there that, you know, they went to visit their brother, and the brother had solar panels, and, you know, just everything you could think of but water catchment. And it was because of that, you know, the state of Colorado. But I think even that state is changing now. So, but if you're in Washington State, I you know, I haven't heard of anybody, you know, and so, yeah.
Okay, I am going to put in a couple more links, chat. And if people want those, I'll also add my email address. So if you want me to just email that to you, you can email me and ask for that information, but you can copy the chat, the little, at least on my screen, there's like a page that's next to a smiley face. And I think if you just click that before we're through, but let me add this other stuff first, that you can do that. And if we have a minute, we may go outside and let you take a look at the connections, but the YouTube videos that Dan was talking about, he did in, I think 2018, 2019, somewhere pre-COVID, we did how-to videos that are on our website, not our website, but on the City of Tacoma's YouTube channel. And the link for that, for both the recorded webinars and the YouTube videos, you can see. This video is being recorded and will probably be up in line in about a week, maybe. Depends on our staff, media staff time and being able to do that. And then Dan, do you want to tell just kind of like what people can connect with you on as far as finished barrels, unfinished barrels, parts, kits, whatever you have available, that if folks want to follow up with you?
Yeah, my website is probably the easiest way. It's www.naturalrainwater.com, naturalrainwater.com, and I've got you can email me from that, or I've got my phone number there, and you certainly contact me that way. Yeah, I've got free delivery in Tacoma, and vicinity too. You know, if I'm maybe if I'm headed out to Lakewood or definitely Seattle, there's a little bit of a charge, but it's not bad, and you can certainly pick it up for free too. But yeah, I'm happy to, and bring you a kit too if you need a kit.
What all is in the kit?
The kit has let's see, it's got the screen, and it's got all the pieces here for the barrel. You do need to get your you know, get a hold of a hole saw, 1.5 inch hole saw, and of course a drill, and that's about it as far as like needing to, and you can get a barrel for me, or Sternberg Enterprises in Milton is just like, they have a huge supply, and they're all they had all some kind of food product in them beforehand. That's important when you're picking a barrel. It certainly puts your mind at rest. You know, you're not quite sure what was in it, but it's nice if you're not, oh, you know, I eat those, or you know, that's olive oil, I like that, or you know, something in there that for human consumption. And that's Sternberg Enterprises, and I can give you, should I give you their phone number, Janda, or I've got it, I can give it to you now. It's 253-405-6720, 405-6720, and they just have a field of barrels. You can also buy one for me, and actually it might be about the same price.
Okay, so for clarification, they can get finished barrels, unfinished barrels, a parts kit, and you also have tanks. You have bigger than the 70 or 90 gallon barrels, whatever they are.
Yeah, I just found a good source for tanks, and they're 275 gallon ones. And the nice thing about those is that you don't have to connect them. It's all just one giant rain barrel. And they're rectangular, and they're about 4 feet long and not quite that wide. But it's a really it's a good way to harvest the rain. So yeah, and then I've also got 25-gallon ones that I call the condo model, because they look good. They look really good, and they're but it's 25 gallons. So it's the nice thing about even a small one like that, if you've got a container somewhere farther in your yard, you can put a hose on the spigot and then just run it down to that container. And some people just use the barrels to keep the water away from the foundation. And like the way you can do that, kind of the foolproof way is just to hook a hose to the spigot and then run it down into the yard.
So before we close out, or if you guys want to go outside, I did put in the chat, in case you copy the whole chat, there is a link in there that's Save the Rain, and it's www.savetherain.com with Save the Rain separated by hyphens. And that's a Canadian website. The figures are in metrics, but it pulls up a map where you can put in the directions to your house. You can bring up your house. I don't know if it's like Google Earth or what, but it gives you the opportunity to pinpoint the corners of your roof, and it will show you the amount of rainfall that is falling on your roof. And then it also shows that in equivalents, like how many toilets you can flush, how many cars you can wash, those kind of things, that what you could do with that volume of rainwater. So that's kind of just a fun curiosity to check out.
Yeah, I love that. And it's on your actual house. And like Jan was saying, you just hit the corners of the roof and it'll give you an idea. And then you can just convert it into, to US gallons. But it's nice to have a barrel if you need to flush your toilet in an emergency. It's nice to have some standing water that you can use. It's just maybe one thing you wouldn't have to worry about. My neighbor has a barrel, and she had like a plumbing issue at her house, and the water was off for a while. She had a barrel, and she was able to flush her toilet with it. So, it's nice it's a nice source of water. So.
Okay, so before we leave, also had a question regarding the French drain at the EnviroHouse, how it was connected. It's just the French drain is in what we call our dry stream bed. It's slightly, buried where the water can get to it, but then the top has got some rockery, so it looks kind of like a little stream. And then the overflow hose goes to a point with that French drain where it just goes from the overflow into the drain, which goes probably about 20 feet to the rain garden. And then the other question in here was, is it an issue, and you may have touched on this, is it an issue if algae grows inside your barrel, and is that bad for plants, or would that limit how you can use your collected water?
Oh, that's another good, yeah. The one thing about the darker barrels, some of the white barrels will grow algae so thick you're not able to. It's like that's what it's for, right? To grow algae. But so you probably don't want, like, some white barrels don't have, like my white small one I have is opaque enough that it won't grow, algae so much. These will tend to grow a little bit of algae, but from what I hear, it's not particularly bad for plants, and so I don't. From what I know about it, it's nothing to worry about that way. And I think the quality of the water is actually pretty good. So.
Right, and also when you're using the water in the summer, when it's not filling up with rain, you're going to empty those barrels fairly quickly. So while they're emptied, that might be a good opportunity just to take the top off and use a really repurposed spray, or maybe some soap and water or something to clean out the inside of the barrel while it's dry and empty.
Yeah, cleaning may be fun at that point, I'm not talking personally, but I think, it's nice when it's warm outside, you get, I'll just clean out the barrel. And especially I think if you're going to use it on some of your food, it's not a bad idea personally, I think it's a good idea just to get it clean. You know, do I do that? Well, not as much, but you can, that's probably ideally, you know, you're in there cleaning it out. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so before we leave this, we'll check and see if there are other questions. So we did just have one come in of, do you install or do you just sell them for DIY?
Oh, no, I do install. Yeah, and I sell them. And if you want to install, the video that I did through the EnviroHouse is helpful too. So again, that's not a, you know, I'm happy to install it for you. Yeah. So.
And if you buy the finished barrel, you can make that arrangements. If you're making your own, it's probably just about as easy to install your own by watching that video, because it's you know, part and parcel.
Yeah, they're really helpful, I think, just to have those for me to refer people to those. And it's, you know, I think one of the biggest hurdles to get over is people actually cutting their downspout. You know, once you get in, and I remember one workshop we did, I just cut a downspout, and I don't know, I think it's psychologically, it's once you're over that, it's you know, it's not a hard, yeah. And I really appreciate having those backups for people, like, you know, the installation or the assembly too. So yeah, you can watch another video on the assembly if you want to. So you can really get, you know, talk about too much information. I mean, you can get a lot of information from too.
So before Dan Corm runs out of battery on his cell phone there that we're shooting this with, if there are no other questions, I guess, do the folks that are still on here, and I don't know how I would know unless you raise your hand, do you want to stay on for a minute and follow them outside to look at the outside barrels, or are we done?
Yeah, you can determine our fate. Yeah.
We have a couple of, maybe the others will stay too.
Okay, oh good, yeah, they had some excellent questions today, so I appreciate
Okay, and if we lose you, I don't know how the video is going to work going outside. We should stay connected, but if we lose you, thank you for participating. And if I would say copy your chat while they're on their way out the door, and then let me know if you need me to email you anything. So I'm not going to end this. They're going to go outside, and we'll see how this works.
Cool.
Okay.
Here we
And
go.
we're going out, I'll try to find something else interesting to talk about. I will tell about our upcoming webinars. You can join just as you did on this one. Register for any of the ones coming up. We have next week will be, I believe it's pollinating gardens, what kind of plants are pollinators and how we get those going, and what kind of critters you can attract with your pollinating gardens. So we are outside already, and Dan is gonna carry on. And there's a spout.
Yeah, thanks. This is just a flex elbow here, and it's a long stretch. This is really a long stretch of gutter, and so I think it's like 450 square feet. It's like half the roof size. So you're looking at like 200 and what is that? You know, 225 or more of rain for every inch of rain. So this barrel is like 70 gallons, so it'll fill really quickly. Got a kind of an older spigot here. These barrels have been in here a long time. I don't even, maybe Jander remembers when.
That first one, the one you're on, the black one, I think has been here since probably before 2009. It was here when I started working. And then we
were on the, yeah. And,
don't show that yucky overflow that hasn't. No, we haven't.
This right here, this never happened. So I don't know. Yeah.
No, we haven't been here for 2 years, folks. So
these are carefree rain barrels. Yeah. But this actually is a really old rain barrel. Because of the overflows here, I haven't been doing that. I think I mentioned it in our talk there, but I haven't been doing that for, a couple decades. So it's, and that testimony to, if you make your own and it's not perfect, they last. I mean, this barrel, I think, is probably, early 2000s. So, and it's good. Actually, this may look really ugly, but this shows that it's working. It's not leaking and it's coming out of the, coming out of the overflow. So, yeah.
Dan, do you want to show us the connection
Yeah.
down here where
Yeah.
it's tied into the other barrel?
Yeah, we got,
Or go down by the triple splitter, that third barrel down.
oh, yeah, I'll show how you water get the goose poop off the path. Yeah, this is a splitter here. So we got water going in two different directions. Yeah, all these are kind of connected. This one is rusted. The straps are rusted, but it's kind of nice to have those on there. Especially if it makes, if you can relax a little bit more with it. But yeah, these are all, yeah, here's the one Janda was talking about. This is really split up. We got this in 3 different ways. It's like 2 different splitters, and that way you've got three hoses. And one of these is actually, you can access this and and then use it right here on the path if you need to. So
Okay, so one of those is feeding in, one is feeding out, and one is that I can turn on and, as he said, fill a bucket or.
yeah, like this, I think this is probably get some nice running water. Yeah. This is the coolest thing for me about a rain barrel. Like, this is water out of nowhere. I mean, I'm not, it's off the grid, it's free and it's soft and it's like,
Turn it around and water it
don't
once.
get so excited you want to drink it right away. But it's it's other than that, it's it's lovely. So it's really neat. I mean, isn't that nice? It's just you collected your own, and it's a huge amount. This simple tool like a rain barrel, and you get access to a bunch of.
And you can see that water is going in our permeable paving, so it's not washing off or running down the street. It's draining back in to the soil.
Yeah, we're so over the top here at the EnviroHouse. It's scary. Yeah, yeah. And so we'll go take a look at. And here's one. This one is connected to the downspout here, and that's an example of one that's not directly under the downspout. You can do a little creative plumbing and direct it into there. And the nice thing is you've got, when you cut a downspout, you've got a dividend of downspout you can use to redirect the water. So if you got that little flex elbow and then the piece of the downspout, you can, like in this case, direct it over the top and hit the target area. So, and
that's the one, that terracotta one is the one that has the overflow that's going down into the French drain. Dan Coram, can you swing to your right a little bit and show the stream bed? So it's all feeding into there, which with the plastic that's blown in from somewhere else, is going down behind him, across under the sidewalk and into the rain garden behind him. So, okay, well, that's a great first time experience. I think we'll probably do some of this again. And there's a rain chain that he's going to show you before we get off.
Yeah,
which needs cleaning.
Yeah, yeah. So are there any volunteers out there that you don't necessarily need a downspout. You can even, in a really dysfunctional gutter situation, just wherever the water is shooting off the end and kind of figure out where that is, you can put the barrel there and then harvest that way. That's the lowest maintenance. This one, what I did with this is just with a piece of rebar, I looped it through the chain. This is like a poor person's rain chain. I looped it through the chain, and so it's got the rebar like this, and the chain is looped, and then I drop it down, and I put a little bit of ballast so it doesn't sway too much. But this, most of the water, this is almost as effective as just cutting into a downspout and redirecting it. It's a perfectly good way. You could spend a lot of money if you want to on a nice fancy rain chain. And that's, you know, those are nice. A lot of folks have those that don't even have rain.
And then you can show your little invention there.
Yeah, and then, yeah, this is just to show the level. It's hard to see actually. This is my invention that's just sort of working here. It's sort of not, but this is just another. Yeah, you kind of get the water, but you can kind of see where the level is on the. It's a little tricky, but that's why that was designed, so you can see the level.
And more examples of
Any
paper.
questions from any questions out there?
Pardon me?
Any more questions, or are we?
No, I think we're done. We have a lot of thank yous, and this will be up on the YouTube channel. I did put that link in, and so if you can copy that chat, and if you can't, let me know and I will send it to you. Thank you both, Dans, and this has been fun to see how this works. Okay. Look at that big gray cloud up there getting ready to give us some rain. Okay, thank you, everybody. And I'm going to end our, oh, that is very dark. I'm going to end our webinar now, and we will see some of you maybe next week. Bye.